Can we analyze the texture of your business before we begin to applaud the size of your business? Hello guys, welcome to this episode of The Unravel. And today is the last episode of our series, Successful Business Growth, or Business Success Growth, or Business Growth. But this is part 4, and this should be our last episode. And on this episode, I'll be digging a bit deeper on the subject of growth, business growth or personal growth. Growth essentially isn't just a necessity. Yes, growth is a necessity in anything that we're doing. We need a measure of growth, but growth isn't just a necessity. Growth is also an expectation. So there is a mindset that we all have that everything should be growing. So there is that reality that growth is a necessity. It could be in business, in marriage, in our children, in our academics. We want to grow. But beyond the necessity of growth, there is an expectation of growth. So it just simply means that people naturally expect us to grow. There is nothing that we are about where we are not burdened by the expectations for growth. And that burden may be either eternal or it could be external. It simply means that it's just logical that we expect ourselves to grow. I can't imagine anyone who does anything and doesn't expect to grow in it. I mean, that is simple irresponsibility. But even beyond the inner expectations that we have for growth, there is the external expectation. People just expect us to grow. It's only people that are probably demonized, as in Ogbanje, like witchcraft, that try to pull people down, right? But essentially, everyone has expectations for growth. So there is the necessity for growth, and there are the expectations for growth. When a man or a woman, mother or father, is trying to raise a family, there is the expectation, there is the need for the children to grow, but the parents also expect to see some measure of growth in that child. Now, the angle from which I want to approach this conversation is digging a bit deeper into what our expectations look like. When we expect a child to grow, is that expectation premised strictly on the increase of the size of the child or the improvement of the behavior of the child? Give it a thought for a minute. As a parent, you expect your child to grow. But that expectation, we have dealt with the necessity. Even in the part 1, we talked about the succeeding growth and the growing success. But I'm saying that even in our expectation for growth, as a parent, is it more focused on the child's increase in size, that he's 2 feet now and then he's now 10 feet tomorrow? Or is it more focused on the child's improvement in character? And if you are very honest with me, you will get to agree that a parent seems to pride more in the character improvement above the increase of size. So your child may be 5 feet tall, or 6 feet tall, or 4.5 feet tall. We don't announce that most of the time, but we tend to brag about how well they are doing in school, how well behaved they are. So there is the expectation that we have as a parent to see that the child is growing in size, but that expectation is not what we celebrate most times as parents. It is how they are growing in character, the virtues that they have. When you have a child who is 5 feet tall, and the child is a drug addict, how do you feel about that child? As against a child who is 4.5 feet tall but is excelling in life and business. I get my point now? So when we think about growth in any aspect of our lives, there is the side-by-side measurement of size and of texture. Of measure and of texture. So there's a measure of growth and there's a texture of growth. And the real definition of growth is mostly in the texture of growth and many times expressed in the measure of growth. Can I say that again? The definition of growth is mostly seen in the texture of growth and then sometimes can be expressed in the measure of growth. So the quality of growth is first in the virtue of growth before in the size of growth. So when you analyze business growth, before you talk about how big you are, is how qualified are you? How strong are you? How much have you been equipped for the future? Before we say you have 100 employees and you have 50 branches, can we analyze the texture of your business before we begin to applaud the size of your business? And many of us are driven by the size of the business above the quality of the business. And I'll show you why that's very dangerous. Many brands have crashed because their sizes were graduating far above their quality, far above their texture. There is nothing wrong to multiply a good thing. So if something is good, you want it bigger. So I have nothing against a big business. I just worry that it's becoming big, but it's corrupt. If there is no structure in the business, it does not qualify for size. That's what I'm saying. So before you put the emphasis on the increase in size, we must put the emphasis in the improvement of structure. So what is the definition or my definition for growth? I would say that growth is the healthy increase in value fashioned by an enhanced structure and not necessarily an enhanced size. So I'll say it one more time. Growth is a healthy increase in value that is fashioned by enhanced structure and not necessarily enhanced size. It could be seen in a bigger size, but the first test of growth is enhanced structure. And if there's an increase, it should be increase in value, not increase in size. So when you have a child who is 20 years old, your first test of that child's growth is the increase in their value and the increase in their structure, right? Before you now analyze how tall are they, how fat are they, how slim are they, you first want to check, is this a good child? Before you say he or she is a tall child. You don't analyze the blessedness of the child by how tall or how big the child is. In fact, in some cases, if the child becomes too big, the child becomes unhealthy. So there's an increase in size that can be interpreted as unhealthy, which is why the word healthy is in this definition, that growth is a healthy increase, because not every increase is healthy. And when you have lumps growing in the body, it's increasing something. When you have tumor growing in the body, it's increasing size, but that is an unhealthy increase. And many times we have businesses that have many things that are increasing, but they are very unhealthy. They will do more damage to the business than they will do any good to the business. But many of us, we want to have something to post. So we want to say we have 3 branches. We have 5 workers. We have grown from 1 worker to 2 workers to 5 workers in 3 months. We want to say something that makes people think that we are doing well. And the things that we are posting and celebrating are not the things that are indicators or indices of true growth in the business or in any venture for that matter. And I think that this corruption is the reason why many African companies don't last long. Many companies we have in Africa die with the CEO. In fact, some of them died before the CEO. So when the CEO dies, they have to sell off because there's no enhanced structure that can sustain that business beyond the lifespan of the CEO. And it should be possible that even a CEO can retire from the business. I should be able to start a business. We said in the series, I don't know which one now, that we said something about scalable and transferable. Was it this episode or the rich and the poor? I'm not sure now. Yeah, but one of the series we talked about scaling the business and being able to transfer a business. The reason why most businesses are not transferable is because they are void of structure. And it is structure that determines the health of the growth of a business or any kind of venture. It's structure. So in other countries, you see where companies are being sold to other CEOs, right? Why are they able to sell the company? You can't transfer something that doesn't have a structure. Am I correct? For you to be able to transfer a business in sales to somebody else, it means that business has a structure. And many businesses in Africa cannot be sold because they are void of structure. The CEO is the alpha and the omega of the business. If it's not there, nothing happens. And I will show you why that is a big fault. Why that's a problem. So you can't transfer a business to a different CEO. You can't even transfer it to your children because there's no structure. You have 20 branches, but you are void of structure. You have 1 billion naira, but you are void of structure. So once the CEO dies, everything goes down because there's no true growth. And the true growth is in the increase in value, which is fashioned by enhanced structure. The key word here is enhanced structure. In your family, as a home, even in your relationship with your fiancé and fiancé, you must have structure. There must be structure. When can we see each other? Where can we see each other? What is permitted now? What is not permitted now? What is the goal for the next 10 years? What are we doing in the next 20 years? How many children do we want to have? How do we want to raise our children? When are they allowed to travel abroad? When can they not travel abroad? There must be structure. What can we feed our children? What can they not eat? When can they eat? When can they not eat? This is structure now. So everything requires structure. If it must be scalable, predictable, and transferable, there must be structure. And one of the ways to achieve that structure is in your growth system. Okay? So I said here that big is not always growth, though growth can make big. If you are growing like a child, if a child retains the shape that he or she was when they were 4 months old or 1 year old, when they're 15, won't you be worried? You'll be worried too. So don't get me wrong. The increase in size is not a bad thing because sometimes growth finds expression in size. But I'm saying that I will always pick virtue over size. When I attain the virtue, I will pursue size. I don't want to have 3 branches when the first branch is failing. Why do you want to replicate a failure? Why won't you build something that is sustainable first before you replicate it? Why won't you do so well with 1 worker first before you have 10 workers? Now you have so many workers and everything is everywhere because you didn't have the structure that was able to receive that volume of workers on your team. So big does not mean growth, but growth can become big. That's what I'm saying here. Every successful business must have the capacity to get, to keep, and to grow. Every successful company, and I did talk about this before, every successful business must have the capacity to get, to keep what you get, and to grow what you keep. You can't grow when you have not kept. And you can't keep when you have not gotten. And there's nothing wrong with getting, because we say it's more blessed to receive, to give than to receive. Yes, for you to even give, you should have first received. It's what you have received, you have kept and grown, that you can easily give. So there is a getting process. But beyond the getting, we must learn to keep. Many of the issues we have, even in politics and government, is the inability to keep and to grow. Have you seen that now? We have oil, we have crude. To keep it, to grow it is a problem. We don't look like what we have. Do you understand my point? We do not look like what we have. And many of us, that's a problem. We have gotten it, but we don't have what it takes to retain what we've gotten, nor do we have what it takes to grow what we have retained. So there are three very key things. When you must learn what it takes to retain. When you get a good wife, can you keep a good wife? Michael, as you have gotten Dami now, can you can you keep a good wife? You were just kneeling down just now after eating bread. So when you even get a good wife, you know that many men married well. Many women, they married well. Many businesses, they began well. It was a fantastic idea. The problem is that the man that began the idea could not keep the idea. The man that married the good woman could not keep the good woman. When he married her, she was not insulting him. He has bashed her so badly that 10 years down the road, she's now insulting her husband. This is not how he met her now. The man who cannot eat at home anymore, he wasn't like this when you married him 10 years ago. He was a good man. But because the wife lacked the ability to keep what she has gotten, what she has gotten now has become rotten. But what she got was good, but there was an inability to keep what was gotten. And in other cases, even when we have been able to keep, we cannot grow. And I'm sure you have realized that stagnation usually leads to stench. Write it down. When something is stagnant, like a river, like a body of water, there is the propensity of stench. Because it's not, I told you in one of the episodes that we are wired for movement. Everything is wired for movement. And one of these ways is moving in growth, moving upwards in growth. So when your wife is fixed, so a few years ago, this was maybe like 7 or 8 years ago now, I was talking with my wife, and I could tell she wasn't happy. And I was like, babe, what's the problem? What's the matter? What's disturbing you? And she said that she just feels stuck. I mean, she's got a good home. She's got a husband. I don't say lovely husband, even though she got a lovely husband. So she has a lovely husband. She has lovely children. She has, things going on for her, but she felt stuck. And I want to say this is a very powerful statement. And I don't know if she would be happy with me saying it, but I will say it. And it felt like all she was Mrs. Harrison. That's a powerful statement. She was grateful, but she wanted to be more than Mrs. Harrison or Mommy Ken. She wanted to be more. And I said to her, okay, can we now focus on doing something? Let's focus on creating value, something you can do that will engage you, something that stirs your sense of relevance outside our home. And we did that. And it was like magic. She flipped and became a different version of herself. She became energetic. She became excited. It didn't mean she was making more money. It didn't mean she was, you know what I'm saying? But there was just something that shifted in that process, that she uncovered a different version of herself. And she became a different woman. Because stagnation leads to stench. So that's why even when you are able to get and you keep and you don't grow, it's still a problem. Because a point will come that you will be choking on your stench. Because you know that I've been stuck in this place for too long. Hopefully later we're going to do the anatomy of growth. And I'll be teaching on the circle of growth. I'll be teaching on the circle of growth. And you'll see the various layers of growth, and you see why it's dangerous not to grow in the cycle of growth. So once growth is absent, it means there's some form of stagnation. And you become the first victim of that stench. Before people even say you are not even growing anywhere, you yourself, if you have any sense of sensitivity in your process, you will begin to become the victim of your stench. That's why you cannot run away from the commitment to growth, even when you are 75 years old. There must be a growing process, even if it means you unlearning what you've learned to relearn. You do that at 70 years old. But that growing process is something that we will take till our old age. A point comes that you teach your children, then when you get to a certain point, you learn from your grandchildren. You keep learning. Because once you stop learning, you stop growing, there will be stench now, and you become the first victim of that stench. So let me say something else. And I'm going to drive this, and then I'll try and bring this to a close. One of the proof of growth, this is very serious. One of the proof of growth, and many Africans don't like this, they will not like this one, is that growth gives birth to independence. Should I explain? If something is truly growing, we said that growth is enhanced structure. Once something is truly growing, the more that thing grows, the less it needs you. Let it sink in. In the words of Ketras, let it simmer. Let it marinate. If you have a child and they are toddlers, what happens? Everything is mommy, mommy. Am I correct? Mommy, I want sugar. Mommy, I want biscuit. Everything is mommy. Mommy, I want to poo-poo. Mommy, I want to pee-pee. Am I correct? When the child becomes 12, how would you feel if the child comes and says, Mommy, I want to poo-poo. Mommy, I want water. Mommy, I want to pee-pee. You call your pastor. Something is wrong here. 12 years old, I want to poo-poo. Go to the toilet and poo-poo. Mommy, I finished poo-poo. Come and clean my bum. You see? So you see that the older the child gets, the less the child needs you. As a toddler, you wash their clothes. You wash their plates. You feed them. You bathe them. You dress them. As the child grows into a teenager, they need you less. They bathe themselves. They feed themselves. They wash their plates. They wash their clothes. Are you here? Because growth is expressed in independence. If everything in your business requires your attention, your business is not growing. That's what I'm trying to say to you. We want to be Lord and Master over every process. And there is a place for micromanagement in the business. But if everything about your business cannot happen until you are there, then there's a problem. We own businesses that are not even in Abuja, and they are running every day and night. I'm not there. I barely call them. But things are running perpetually. Because if a thing is growing, one of the proof of growth is independence. That thing will need you less. So once you build, that's the power of structure. Because structure is like an auto run. When you build a structure, it develops that capacity to have the auto run. So it can run in spite of your absence. So do you not see why people don't own businesses after they die? Because there was no structure. The business was too dependent on them. So once they died, the business died. But if the business was growing truly, even if the CEO dies or sells the business, it will still do well. Just apply the structure that has been built. It will do well. McDonald's anywhere is McDonald's. Am I correct? Because they have operational structures. They have systemic structures. They have a transferable structure. And that structure does not require the presence of the CEO. Do you know the CEO of McDonald's? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Because the business does not require the direct involvement of the CEOs anymore. The system has become bigger than the person. And that is the hope that we must have for any business we invest in, that the business becomes stronger to a degree that we are not needed. That is the goal. That is the true test, the true acid test of business growth. That the business have developed a virtue in independence that does not require your presence. The goal of a parent is to raise a child to become so independent that the child needs you less. And in most cases like parenting, as the child grows, the parent begins to depend now on the child. There's not a parent calling the son and saying, I want to buy a new car. What do you advise me to do? I want to buy a new house. What do you think that he should do? Because the owner is now depending on the child. The parent is not depending on the child. The CEO is not feeding off the business. The business is not driving the vehicle. So the goal of genuine growth is that what you once carried develops the capacity to carry you. That's the growth. That's the growth goal. Is that the thing you once carried now has the capacity to carry you. It could be your business, it could be your wife, it could be your child, it could be a friend. You want to build a person, build a business, build a career that now develops enough in itself to carry you, carry your vision, carry your future, carry your family. Am I correct? Yes. And that's where we miss it in many of our businesses. What we are carrying, we are always carrying. It doesn't have the capacity to carry us at any point. All right, growth of a business is seen in the structure of that business, and the business void of structure is absolutely void of growth. A business that is void of structure is absolutely void of growth. Some of you will ask, how do I know I have structure? You will know. Because like I said, structure will reduce your direct involvement in the business. There are many things that the team is doing, even at the foundation, that does not require my involvement. There are many outreaches for the past 3 years that I have not attended because there's a structure in place. And a structure is repetitive. A structure is not always visible to the external, like the pillars of a house, but it is what is carrying the house. There must be a system of how things are done, when they are done, the principles that guide what is being done. That is how you build structure. And that's why we say that growth is healthy increase in value, because they are in your structure, there must be values expressed. This is how we treat our customers. This is how we treat our co-workers. This is how we resume work and we close work. This is how we dress to work. This is how we talk to each other. We don't insult each other. These are the things that form the fabrics of structure. This is how we sell our business. This is how we talk to our guests. This is how we listen to our guests. These are the things that form the fabrics of your business. And that's how we train children as well. When you train a child, you are doing structure building in that child. So a business that is void of structure, that business is void of growth. I've been asked to give a recap by my humble producers here on this series. So this series, like I said, is on the business success growth, or what you can call successful business growth, or what you can call business growth. And we began by highlighting the construct of what it means to have a successful business growth by saying that every business desires to have a successful growth or have a growing success. And that is in episode 1. And we delved into goals and what goals are. And if you want to know more about that, you watch episode 1. Episode 2, we went a bit into business, right? And we talked a little bit more into what it means to have a business, and not just the business in trade, but the business of life. And we did establish in that episode that life is a business, and business is intentional trade or intentional exchange. So you can see more on episode 2. Episode 3, we talked about success and what it means to be a success. And we gave some definitions about success. It was really interesting. You want to watch it. And then, of course, you have these 4 episodes already done, which is what we are concluding now. The 4th one is what we did on growth. And besides this series, there are several other series that you want to catch up with, The Rich and the Poor, and several other series on our YouTube channel. So please do go and subscribe, like, put on your notification, share with your friends, and let's get the word out and change our lives. So this is the final episode. Somebody's shaking her head here. She's not happy we're ending the episode. But this is going to be our last episode on this series, and we look forward to seeing you on the next series. God bless you.